David in the Bible. That's right, he's the one who fought a giant and won because God was with him. And that's not the only battle that he fought. He fought many battles for God. David was a warrior, a hero. Did you know that in Israel, they still think of David as the greatest king they ever had? But now, David was old. David loved God with all his heart. And he wanted to build him a temple. But God said, no, you're a king of war, David. I want you to make the plans. And I want you to start gathering the wood and the stones and all the gold that will be needed to make the temple. But it won't be you that makes it. It will be your son, Solomon. So now, David was old, and he knew that he was dying. Now, when kings die, people sometimes fight about who becomes king next. So David wanted to make sure that the kingdom went to his son Solomon, as God wanted. So he called a meeting of all the chief men of Israel. When they had all come together, this great king, who everyone loved and respected, stood up and told everyone that Solomon was going to be the next king. Then he made a speech in front of everyone, speaking to his son Solomon. But what do you think he said? Do you think he said, go fight lots of battles in the name of God? Or do you think he said, you need to be a glorious, mighty king so that everyone will love and respect you? No. David said this: I wanted with all my heart to build a house for the Lord my God. But a long time ago, God spoke to me and said, you have fought too many wars, so you cannot build a temple. But you will have a son called Solomon. I will give Israel peace from your enemies while he is king. Solomon will build a temple for me. He will be my son, and I will be his father. I will make his kingdom strong. Someone from his family will rule over Israel forever. That's what God said to me, Solomon. Now, may God be with you. Build a temple as he said that you would. I've already prepared all the materials and workers for you. May God give you wisdom and understanding. But in everything that you do, be very careful to obey the teachings of God. If you obey them and stay close to God, you will have success and God will be with you. Be strong and brave. Don't be afraid or lose hope, and may God be with you. Then he ordered all of the leaders to help Solomon. He said to them, the Lord your God is with you. He helped me defeat the people living around us, and now there is peace. Now give yourselves completely to obeying the Lord your God. Build the holy palace of God. Then he made his son king. Oops. Well, in reality, it stayed on. So, I have a few questions for you now. Did this big and mighty king do what he thought best? Did David do what he thought best? No, you're right. He did what God thought best. He wanted with all his heart to build the temple, but he was totally obedient to God. And I've got another question. Who do you think gave Israel peace? Was it David or was it God? Yes, that's right. God did it. And why did he give them peace? Yep, to build a temple. And what was the most important thing the people had to do? Maybe you're thinking it might be to build the temple, and you would be mostly right. But there's something else. Can you think of what it was? It was actually to give themselves completely to obeying God. God wants us to serve him with all our hearts and with all our minds. And they did that by building the temple. Does God want us to build his temple? What do you think? Yes, he does. We now know that God's temple is made out of people. And God has told us to go and tell people the good news. And to end with, a question for the mummies and daddies. As a parent or as a church member, what does God tell you about preparing the work for our children to do? And how are we supposed to prepare our children for the work to be done? Well, the passage I told you about today was from 1 Chronicles 22. Maybe you could read it together as a family and see what God has to say about preparing our children for God's work.